Hey, I'm back. It's Mark Lowe, and I'm glad to be with you sharing information about your genealogical research and your families and history and how we can tie everything together and learn more about those great stories. This issue is kind of focusing on things I should have known how to do and do better. But, we make mistakes. We all start at a given level, and it just sometimes things get in the way, right? Things just kind of happen, and we make mistakes. We misread stuff. So today's session is really about me being back and about focusing on reviewing research mistakes and lesson learned. And this is just kind of the introduction of that because trust me, I'm going to share with you lots of mistakes that we often make and how to avoid those in the process of our research. I've been doing this my whole life almost. And when I was a young man and I probably made I made lots of mistakes, and some of them I can clearly see. Maybe at the time I didn't, and over the years of experience, I've learned things that I want to share with you. So bear with me as we go through some of this information and see if we can't learn together about how to review some of the things that you've done, mistakes, and the lessons you've learned, so that not only going forward you're improving, but that you actually might find some problems that happened in the past that if you fix them now will just keep you moving on the right direction. Let me tell you a story. My granny, my grandmother, my mom's mom, Bessie Alexander, she was the daughter of George Ann, female, Kinslow, and Sam Alexander. Now, my grandmother was born in 1898 in Evanston County, Kentucky. That's the same place where Mammoth Cave is. And I knew that. And I knew my granny, knew her well. But I didn't ask her when I was interested in this. I was working on little pieces of information. And one of the mistakes I made is not interviewing and not talking to people who were alive when I first got interested. And having known that now, I would have not stopped, and she would have been more than happy to have told me things. She told me lots of stuff as I began to research, but I was not focused on this question at the time. Okay? I knew the names. I was happy with that. I did not know the stories. So one of the things is you learn later is that you want to get as much of the information as you can, not just the names and dates. And so this is the lesson. So sometime after my grandmother died, my mom and I were at a family funeral up in Kentucky, and I was talking to one of her cousins that I had just met, and we were talking about, and I was saying, I really don't know that much about the family, and she said to me, well, George Ann Kinslow was an orphan. I'm like, no, I didn't know that. I took that in, adopted that piece of fact of information. This was undocumented evidence. She didn't tell me how she knew. And even in the process of the discussion, I'm like, well, how do you know that? Or what evidence is there? What is that? I still don't know because unfortunately that person has passed. I can't even ask them what they were thinking. But I went home with that in my head. Oh, my great-grandmother was orphaned at the time. And that might help me in the process of finding her, right? I thought of all kinds of places that I could look. Well, first, because I maybe look back, I don't remember now, but I looked for her in the census. She was in Barron County, Kentucky. And I looked, and I remember she's an orphan. I already had that filter. I had adopted that information that I was told without fact, without documentation. Be cautious. Just because somebody tells you that, we have to be, So anyway, I found a Georgie Kinslow in this household. Indicates she's a niece. And so I thought that's it. I found her. I stopped. I didn't look to see, are there other George Ann Kinslows? Is this it? What's the deal? And so I accepted that piece of information. And that based my research going forward. I looked for her in guardianship records. I looked for her as the ward of this couple that she was living with. No luck. I didn't find any contrary information either. And I'm thinking, well, I looked for estate settlements of what I thought her parents would have been in this time period. No luck. Sometimes when we face that, we call it a brick wall, but we build those brick walls ourselves. I should have backed up and thought, no, wait a minute. I'm looking for her in this way. Why? Because she's an orphan? Why do I know she's an orphan? Or have I confirmed that she's an orphan? Well, family stories that are shared at the funeral home may or may not be true. Yes. So this was undocumented evidence. I accepted that brick very freely from that cousin. Be cautious. Now, I was at another funeral a few years later. A different cousin of my mom's that I'd met before. But we were talking, and I said, I can't find it because she's an orphan and I don't find any records. And he's like, she wasn't an orphan? He said, there were all kinds of kids. And her parents, they were still living. And he said, they're buried. And he told me where they were buried. And that's where, anyway. Sometimes the information that we take in is not the same as what we see right in front of us. We're willing to accept information from people in a trusting way that we probably shouldn't. I had picked the wrong person in the census. If I had only flipped a few pages further, there's a Georgiana Kinslow, an 8-year-old daughter of John M. and Minerva Kinslow. That's her parents. And there she is with her siblings. The story that I had put together was incorrect because I had accepted a faulty piece of information from a reliable person, but without source, without documentation. So I feel like that's something that we need to look at. And so I want us to look at some of the mistakes that I have made. We're going to use my mistakes and a few others that I know with other folks that I've helped over the years, and see if we can't improve all of our research just a little bit. Maybe you're looking back and saying, I need to pick this back up again. I need to rejuvenate what we're doing. This is the way. This is the way to do it, okay? This is the way. So if you'll join me, I'm going to pick up this banner again, see if I can't resolve some of these other problems, maybe some of your problems too. And so I want to announce that coming soon, we're going to deal with how to solve some of these problems. I'm going to go ahead and tell you what the first 3 issues that we'll be dealing with. Come look for them soon. We're going to deal with number 1, jumping to conclusions. And I bet we covered that more than once. I bet we'll pick it up again another time. We're also going to talk about the number 2 mistake. That's a reliance on an online database. No, it's not a problem to use them, but we need to make sure that the data that we collect is ours, fits our family, and is from the right location. That ties us into number 3. The biggest mistake, number 3, is neglecting location or geographic research. Sometimes we need to know more about the community where our ancestors live. Okay? Now, if you're willing, you join me. We'll be picking this up. So in addition to reviewing research mistakes and lessons learned, trust me, as we go forward, I'm going to try to continue to share things that I think will help you in your search for building your family tree, learning about the stories of your ancestors, and just picking up some great stories and information about the places where we all live. So join me. If you haven't, maybe subscribe. It'll help me know and let me know what you want to hear about. I want to thank my friend and colleague Karen for suggesting this topic and getting me back on track of helping us all build our families one branch at a time. Have a great day. I'll see you next time.